Phoebe Handsjuk was born on May the 9th, 1986 in Melbourne, Australia. From a young age, Phoebe was described as creative, athletic and strong-willed, with a wild imagination and a thirst for adventure. Her mother, Natalie Handsjuk, recalled Phoebe as a free spirit, with an insatiable appetite for socialising and a deep love for nature and the ocean. She had a close relationship with her family, especially her grandmother, and was known for her fierce loyalty and protective nature towards her loved ones. However, Phoebe also had a more troubled side. From her teenage years, she struggled with mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and mood swings. She began experimenting with drugs and alcohol, and by the age of 15, she had run away from home, spending several weeks living in a squat with older individuals who had a criminal background. During this time, Phoebe's family became increasingly concerned about her behaviour and sought professional help for her. She was subsequently prescribed antidepressants and began seeing a therapist, but her struggles with mental health and substance abuse would continue into her adulthood. Despite these challenges, Phoebe was a talented and driven young woman. She excelled in sports, particularly basketball, and was artistically gifted, with aspirations of travelling overseas and doing humanitarian work in India. She had an adventurous spirit and a deep sensitivity that made her feel things intensely. These qualities made Phoebe beloved by her friends and family, but also left her vulnerable to emotional turmoil. In 2010, Phoebe was living with her boyfriend, Anthony Hampel, in a luxury apartment building known as the Valencia Tower in Melbourne's inner city. Hampel, a successful events promoter who was 18 years older than Phoebe, had begun dating her about 18 months prior. The relationship was somewhat tumultuous, marked by frequent arguments and breakups, often fueled by Phoebe's heavy drinking and Hampel's controlling behaviour. Phoebe's family and friends were concerned about the relationship, with some describing Hampel as possessive and emotionally distant. On December 2nd of 2010, Phoebe was found dead at the base of the Valencia apartment building after falling 12 stories down a garbage chute. Her body was discovered by a maintenance worker in the building's trash compactor room. She had suffered catastrophic injuries, including severe head trauma and the near severance of her right foot, which was hanging on by a bare tendon. Despite the horrifying nature of her death, the initial police investigation quickly concluded that Phoebe had either committed suicide or died as a result of a bizarre accident. Phoebe's family, however, was immediately suspicious of this conclusion. Her grandfather, Lorne Campbell, a retired detective, believed that Phoebe's death was not an accident or suicide, but that foul play was involved. He and the rest of Phoebe's family pointed out several inconsistencies in the investigation and the circumstances surrounding her death, leading to years of legal battles and an official inquest into the case. The official police investigation into Phoebe's death was marked by several troubling gaps and oversights. From the outset, investigators focused heavily on the theory that Phoebe had entered the garbage chute voluntarily, either in an attempt to take her own life or as part of a bizarre drunken accident. This theory was supported by the fact that Phoebe had been drinking heavily on the day of her death, with her blood alcohol levels more than 3 times the legal driving limit. She had also taken prescription sleeping pills, although the levels found in her system were not high enough to be considered lethal. However, Phoebe's family raised several questions about this theory. First, the physical act of climbing into the garbage chute itself seemed almost impossible. The chute was narrow, and its opening was located at shoulder height, requiring Phoebe to either climb or be lifted into it. Additionally, the position and size of the chute would have made it extremely difficult for her to enter voluntarily, especially while heavily intoxicated. The lack of any visible injuries or bruises on Phoebe's body that would indicate she climbed into the chute herself further deepened these doubts. Another key issue was the fact that no suicide note was ever found. While Phoebe had struggled with depression and substance abuse, those who knew her best, including her own therapist, stated that she had never expressed suicidal thoughts. In fact, Phoebe had been making plans for the future in the days leading up to her death, including discussing her trip to India. This raised further questions about whether her death was a suicide or not. Additionally, there were several troubling details regarding the state of Phoebe's apartment on the day of her death. Blood was found in multiple locations across the apartment, including on her computer, but there were no clear signs of a struggle. Phoebe's phone and computer were also missing critical data, with her sent emails mysteriously deleted. Despite these suspicious details, the apartment was not treated as a potential crime scene by the initial investigators, and key pieces of evidence such as her computer were not seized until months after her demise. In 2013, an inquest was held to examine the circumstances surrounding Phoebe's death more thoroughly. The inquest involved testimony from multiple witnesses, including forensic experts, police officers, and Phoebe's own family members. One of the most contentious issues during the inquest was the missing SIM card from Phoebe's phone. Although the phone itself had been handed over to Hampel by the police just days after her death, the SIM card had vanished, preventing a full analysis of her communications in the hours leading up to her death. Another critical issue was the limited analysis of Phoebe's computer. The police had not seized the computer until several months after her death, and the forensic analysis of the device was limited to a narrow 5-day window. This raised concerns that important evidence such as emails or notes Phoebe may have written before her death was overlooked. Phoebe's family fought to gain access to a more thorough analysis of her computer, but the coroner ultimately ruled that Hampel's privacy rights took precedence, preventing further investigation into the device. After months of hearings, the coroner delivered his findings, concluding that Phoebe's death was likely the result of an accident. The coroner speculated that Phoebe, highly intoxicated and disorientated, may have climbed into the garbage chute in a confused state, leading her to her fatal fall. However, the coroner also acknowledged the numerous gaps in the investigation and the troubling lack of concrete evidence to support any definitive conclusion. Despite the coroner's ruling, Phoebe's family and many members of the public remain unconvinced by the official explanation of her death. Several alternative theories have been proposed, many of which suggest that Phoebe's death may have involved foul play. One of the most widely discussed theories is that Phoebe was murdered, and that her body was disposed of via the garbage chute to stage the appearance of an accident or suicide. Proponents of this theory point to the physical difficulty of entering the chute voluntarily, especially given Phoebe's intoxicated state, as well as the lack of any clear motive for her to take her own life. Some have speculated that Phoebe may have been involved in an altercation with Hampel, or another individual in the apartment building, leading to her death, and that the scene was staged to cover up the crime. Another theory is that Phoebe's death was the result of an accidental overdose or drug-related incident. Some believe that she may have taken a combination of alcohol and prescription drugs that left her disorientated or unconscious, leading her to fall down the chute. However, this theory is also difficult to reconcile with the physical difficulty of entering the chute voluntarily, and, again, with the lack of any conclusive evidence of an overdose. One of the most troubling aspects of the case is the missing or mishandled evidence. The disappearance of Phoebe's SIM card and the incomplete analysis of her electronic devices have left many critical questions unanswered. Additionally, the blood found in the apartment, while not indicative of a struggle, has never been fully explained, leading to ongoing speculation about what really happened in the hours before Phoebe's demise. More than a decade after Phoebe Handsjuk's death, her family continues to seek answers and justice. They have kept her memory alive through public campaigns and legal efforts to reopen the investigation. In recent years, the case has gained widespread attention through media coverage, including books, documentaries, and podcasts that have examined the many unanswered questions surrounding her final moments. For Phoebe's mother, Natalie Handsjuk, the fight for justice is as much about ensuring that her daughter's death is fully understood as it is about preventing similar tragedies in the future. Natalie has spoken out about the importance of thorough and impartial investigations into suspicious deaths, particularly in cases involving vulnerable individuals. The death of Phoebe Handsjuk remains surrounded by controversy and unanswered questions. Despite a detailed inquest and media attention, the true nature of her death continues to be debated, leaving a lingering sense of injustice.